Hi, so we're back with the part 2 of series of videos about causal mediation analysis. In this video, we will talk with reference to context of our own project on childhood adiposity. So for our example, we aim to identify the pre-established based on our analysis pathway by which clusters exert their influence on child's adiposity, on a child's adiposity. So we established that children with mothers from cluster 1, children with mothers from cluster 1 versus cluster 2 have higher risk of adiposity. So we use 3 different measures of adiposity in order to do that, quantify that. Our hypothesis is that physical activity, so what is our hypothesis? That physical activity mediates the relationship between maternal cluster affiliation and child's adiposity. Let me just clean this. Maternal cluster affiliation and child's adiposity. What we are trying to do is to decompose the total impacts of cluster affiliation. So what we're trying to do, we're trying to decompose the total impact of cluster affiliation on child's adiposity into 2 parts, indirect effect and direct effect. indirect effect and direct effect. Now, what is this indirect effect? The increase in child's adiposity measure that is attributable to the cluster induced difference in physical activity. On the other hand, the direct effect is the impact of cluster affiliation on child's adiposity without changing physical activity. Meaning that you are, for example, comparing two kids, one whose mother belongs to cluster 1 and the other one whose mother belongs to cluster 2, but both of them have same level of physical activity. So that's one of the key things that we are looking for. And so just to add to this, so basically we will have 3 different research questions. We can possibly have 3 different research questions here. Research question number 1 with reference to our project. Sorry. I apologize for my poor handwriting skills. I have damaged my rotator cuff, so it's hard to write without much support to my hand, which usually happens when you're writing on some sort of app on iPad. So research question number 1 is, for us, the treatment is the cluster. Treatment for us would be cluster affiliation, and outcome is the adiposity measure. Adiposity measure. The impact of mother's cluster affiliation on child's adiposity. So that's what we are looking at, right? Impact of mother's cluster affiliation on child's adiposity. How much is the average cluster impact? Cluster impact on child's adiposity. That's our research question number 1. We then try to find or identify pathways by which clusters exert their well or pre-established influences on child's adiposity. So let me just write it down for the purposes, for the sake of completeness. We then, just in case you want to print these slides, to identify pathways by which clusters exert their well-established or pre-established, whatever you want to call it, influence on child's adiposity. Adiposity. So that's the main research question we have. And what's our intermediate question? So there's another research question, that research question number 2. We believe that there is some sort of mediator, so that we have the treatment or cluster affiliation and then there is physical activity, which is mediator. And the outcome Y, this is our T, this is our M, which is adiposity measure, one of the 3 adiposity measures that we have. So physical activity of child differs as a function of cluster, and properties of physical activity of children account for individual differences in adiposity outcome. So physical activity of a child differs as a function of cluster, its cluster affiliation, and properties of physical activity of children. Account for individual differences in adiposity. Otherwise, every child in a specific cluster would be expected to have same outcome, but that doesn't really happen, right? So how would the cluster-induced change in physical activity exert an impact on child's adiposity? That's another question we have. So the question is, how would the cluster-induced change in physical activity exert an impact on the outcome, which is child's adversity. So that's our question number 2. Now the third and the final question is how much, so the research question number 3, how much is the average causal effect of cluster on child's adversity without changing physical activity? This is what is also known as population average direct effect. We'll talk about all these when we have a couple of more videos which discuss the traditional approach, which is the classic regression approach to mediation analysis, and the one which discusses a more recent approach, which is the potential outcomes framework. So I'll stop this video here. I think we've already gone too far, and I'll see you guys in the next video.